as you are engaging the whole hustle culture that is around us and pushing in on you got to be really careful about the 5 people that are around you. And I too have said that, and I still mean that, but I want to temper it. And I want to temper it with what we don't need to cut everybody out of our lives, but we need to be mindful. And there's value to, say, the friend that you have shared life with. Now you're in the middle years of life. You've known this person for decades. They've seen you change and grow over the decades. They've watched you encounter, challenges and successes. They've watched you grow a family. Maybe they've held your hand during a divorce or other hardships, through other losses in life. Like, they have walked through life with you. This is almost like a family member, right? Nobody is going to know you better. Welcome back, or welcome to the Conscious Investor Podcast, the show where we talk about health, mindset, and wealth building strategies. Guess what? Conscious Investor, there are less than 63 days until the Conscious Investor Growth Summit taking place March 6th through 9th at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. Have you bought your tickets? Oh my goodness. Super early bird and early bird tickets are gone, but remember, I created tickets that were extremely reasonable, especially for the value that you are getting and gaining through this event. I mean, these are just the most extraordinary speakers that you are going to come across. These are topics that are going to shift lines in your life. And some of these topics are probably not topics that you are going to choose. Like, if there was a breakout session, you'd probably be like, oh, I'm going to skip that. And that's the one you need. Okay, so I'm so excited. You're going to have such powerful exposure. Make sure you pick up a VIP ticket so you can head out on the boat cruise, and you can head out on a hike with Jessica D'Angelo. And then remember, everyone is welcome to every single evening. There is something going on the first night's on site, but the rest of the nights it's off site fun for everybody. So you want to make sure we've baked in a lot of fun, a lot of ways for you to connect in a meaningful way with speakers and attendees alike. So you don't want to miss out. Can I say that again? You don't want to be missing out on this. It would be maybe the worst decision of 2025. All right, Conscious Investor, this has been on my heart to talk about. This is why I said, stop cutting people out of your lives. And the reason I am bringing this up is because even I have created content around this topic of really curating the people in your life. And I still see that sentiment out there in the networks, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, the 5 people you surround yourself with, those are the people you're going to grow into. And there's a lot of pressure that we are putting on ourselves to make sure that the people that we are around are people that are going to serve us. And I am being very deliberate in that, and that might sting a bit. And here's the deal, is that the idea is you want to be around people that are going to help you level up. I definitely 1,000,000% agree with this. However, I have seen, and maybe even in my own life to some extent, people take this to the extreme. And they just start like, I'm just not associating with those people anymore. I'm just not going to do this. And I want to caution you on taking that posture. And here's the reason why, is that one, we want to make sure that we're in relationships where there's reciprocity. And that reciprocity it's not tit for tat. So it's not like, oh, I helped you with your business, you're going to help me with my business. I, helped you get in shape and you're going to help me get in shape. And it's not tit for tat because we have different skills, talents, ability, experiences, and all of that. And we're attracted to people who have things generally that are part of our deficit. And so we're going to be attracted to people who are going to be able to support us. And guess what? We may not be able to support them in return. And so what can happen is that if we're trying to always get the support and such, we could find ourselves in a very lopsided situation. And because that's all we're pursuing. What if we took a little shift on this whole concept and said, you know what? I am going to surround myself with people who are leveling up in their life, and I'm going to ensure that I am helping those people around me level up. Let's talk about some examples, right? You have your longtime friends. You've been friends since childhood. And guess what? They're not on the same they're not in the same trajectory that you're on. They are really, maybe they're kind of just ho hum, really super content. And you are like, I want to achieve this in life and I want to go here in life. And you've been friends since kindergarten. So some of the thinking that's out there would say, hey, you got to cut this person out of your life. They're dead weight. Cut the rope. You need to be 100% focused on where you're going. But there's something terribly wrong with this for so many reasons. And Super Rad Steve, he and I were recently discussing this, and I really appreciated how he put this. He's like, pretty soon you're going to end up with nobody in your life, because at some point people are going to stop adding value into your life, and at some point you are going to stop adding particular value into other people's lives. And I'm taking it to the extreme, right? Sure, they're like these little, I understand there are increments, but at some point it's going to be like that. And there's value to, say, the friend that you have shared life with. Now you're in the middle years of life. You've known this person for decades. They've seen you change and grow over the decades. They've watched you encounter, challenges and successes. They've watched you grow a family. Maybe they've held your hand during a divorce or other hardships, through other losses in life. Like, they have walked through life with you. This is almost like a family member, right? Nobody is going to know you better. They know you inside and out. And so what we can do is accept that and say, some of these friendships that we have are friends where it's like, you know me and I know you. And because of that deep level of knowing, we can actually support each other in a completely different way that seems counterintuitive to the hustle culture. It's like, well, no, you're not helping with my business, but you know me, and I don't have to explain anything. I don't have to fill in the gaps. And usually those people that know us for that period of time that we've hung around with, they'll usually speak truth into our life. They're usually the ones that are going to, kind of remind you about who you were and where you are and all sorts of things. They're just going to speak very candidly. So I want to encourage you with those type of relationships. Like, why do we need to cut them out? Just because they're not as ambitious as we are? So that's where we can also, if we are cutting people out because of, well, I'm super ambitious, and I'm going to say I can fall into this category. Okay, conscious investor, I am not up here on some soapbox, preaching at you. I am like, wow, these are some things that I have noticed in my life. I've noticed that I've stepped away from a lot of really great people just because I was so into my ambition and what I'm building and how I'm growing and all these amazing things. And it's almost like shiny object syndrome, but with the relationships in your life. You want to be mindful of this. Those people who've been walking with you, they care about you. And when you find people that care about you in your life, that's really difficult to replace because it takes a while to really get to know somebody, like truly understand what makes them tick and who they are. And then for them to know the same about you. So I want to encourage you is that we tend to think that, if they're not lifting me up, then they're pulling me down. It's a very zero sum, like black and white type situation. And I want to encourage you as you are, evaluating 2025, as you're evaluating the relationships in your life. Yes, please use Brendon Burchard's model from the book, The Charge, in the section on connections. That is such a powerful section. And he has 3 different buckets for friends. If you recall, we've talked about this in past episodes. And we want to just make sure that we're not just simply cutting people out of our lives because we don't see the value that they are bringing to our lives. We want to make sure that the value that people are bringing and that we are bringing, it might just simply be that we bring joy to each other. And that right there is reason enough to have a relationship with someone. Right. And so as you are engaging the whole hustle culture that is around us and pushing in on you got to be really careful about the 5 people that are around you. And I too have said that, and I still mean that, but I want to temper it. And I want to temper it with what we don't need to cut everybody out of our lives. but we need to be mindful. And we can still be in these relationships and we can still be cognizant and mindful of, let's just say that this person isn't on the same trajectory that I am, and that's okay. I don't want to feed into, and I cut myself off earlier, but we don't want to feed into that elitism and that, oh, they think they're better than us, or oh, they're doing that thing over there, so aren't they so great? And we feed into that when we say, I don't have time for you, you're not, and we start feeding that narrative, and we want to be really mindful. Of course, naturally, it doesn't mean you're necessarily feeding that narrative. It's just something to be mindful of, to say, am I still staying humble and I'm staying grounded with the people that have helped me get to where I'm going? Now, sometimes we hear what got you here isn't going to get you there. And so maybe that applies to people. Well, maybe these people helped get you here, but they're not going to help get you there. So, cut the rope. And it's like, is that really necessary? Is that really the type of thing? Going back to the question that Steve and I've been discussing, when we look back, when one of us is on our deathbed and we're looking back, what are the stories we want to tell each other? So when you are in that situation at the end of your life, what are the stories you want to be able to share? Who do you want to share those stories with? Because as ambitious as I am, it's all for naught. It's all for loss if I have no great stories to share about that, if I don't have anybody around me to share that with, even if I were to start a massive movement that changed the entire world, right? But I was alone. Did I really do what I set out to do? Was I really living by what I am saying? And so, again, as we're heading into the new year, as we're listening to different influences, as we're listening into, well, Napoleon Hill says this and so and so says that, like, just make sure that you are saying, what does my heart tell me? What does this actually mean? Is this actually appropriate to cut people out in this way? I enjoy hanging out with that person. It's relaxing. Oh my gosh, have you ever thought about that? Just simply how some people who are completely disassociated with what we're building and the businesses and investing in that, all of it, right? And you're around some of your friends that aren't involved with that and they don't care about it and you're not even talking about it. Wow, sometimes that can be a really just like such a wonderful break, right? For your mind and for every bit of your being. So try to think about things on this whole friendship loop in just a little bit different perspective. That's what I've got for you today. Remember that life is a limited time offer. Live it well.